In this episode, myself, Kate and Iain talk about what it was like turning from cops into cruisers, sailing the Mediterranean during Brexit, and why they chose a Najad sailboat.
I've been more scared in my boating life than I have in my professional life. And I've been in some hairy situations
Yeah, I
with
bet,
some
yeah.
badass people with, and I've had to draw taser and things on people. I've been more scared because you're just on your own, aren't you? It's you, the boat, and your partner, and Mother Nature. So, yeah.
And Mother Nature is the biggest badass.
Yeah, she's the biggest badass.
Yeah. So right, you're both police. Well, you were both police officers, or you still are. Like, what? Are you on like
retired.
a sabbatical? Right. Okay.
I'm on a sabbatical, so I can, if I want, go back to work in 3 years' time, or I can retire in 3 years' time. So.
Right. Okay. Retirement sounds a lot nicer than going back to work.
Yes.
What did you both do within the police?
So I did my full 30-year career, and everyone starts off on the beat, or they did back then.
Yeah.
So I did 8 years on the normal beat. Then I went on the Marine unit. This was my patrol boat, that one there. And I spent 9 years on the Marine unit, I think, and luckily got qualified up with a load of RYA qualifications and stuff like that. So I did a bit of teaching. And then I left the Marine unit on promotion, and I was a frontline supervisor for the remaining 15 years or something like that. So I was a sergeant. I just ran the patrol team. So if, the team that go out and answer the 999 calls, I was responsible for running that team.
On the water?
No, I left. I was a PC on the water. Right. But then I got promoted back ashore. There was various issues on the Marine unit because it was an expensive unit to have, and the force was always threatening to close it down and what have you. So I actually got promoted back ashore and carried on the last 15 years of my career back on land.
Interesting. What type of crime are you on the lookout for, like in anchorages, or is it ports or like import exports, weird stuff like? Is it more that?
No, I used to give talks to yacht clubs and that sort of thing, and I always say it's exactly like a police car on the water. People think it's drugs and all that sort of thing, but on the water you've got theft from boats, theft of boats, you've got speeding, you've got accidents, any fatalities on the water we investigated, any serious accidents we investigated. And if a boat's broken into, people have had domestic disputes on boats before. Some guy whacked his wife around the head with a frying pan and she jumped off and swam to the nearby boat, and we had to go and deal with that. So anything that happens on land, there's a direct equivalent on water. All the drugs and that's customs and excise. I mean, obviously if we came across it. But yeah, it was just a patrol car on the water, same stuff really.
Also you got to do fancy stuff like
I got to get winched up. Have good
really
fun and that
cool
sort of thing. But yeah.
And how many of those boats are like patrolling UK waters?
Well, it's quite sort of territorial. Each force does its own thing. So I was in Dorset Police, and we had one of the big launches and a couple of ribs. Devon and Cornwall only had one rib, but they have a dive team. Dorset didn't have a dive team. So territorial police forces, there's probably only 5 or 6 launches around the coast, the UK. But then you've got the MOD police who've got their launches, and you've got what they call now border force, obviously different thing again, but they're on patrol. But yeah, police forces don't have an awful lot of marine presence, not like they do in America. So
yeah, it's wild, isn't it? Like the extent we have to go to as countries just to stop like criminals and bad people from doing stupid shit. Like, why can't everybody just behave? Make the world such an easier place. Kate, what did you do in the police?
I did 14 years. Well, my service was 14 years because I different background. I was frontline police the whole time, so 24/7 response policing. So it's hard work. Before that, I worked in the law. I was a paralegal, did my law degree, and was a claims handler and a lawyer really for 15 years or so.
Just so I understand, like when you join the police and you working like on the street or at events or investigations or whatever, is there a certain process you go through? Like, do you start off at one thing and then is there a set path, or can you choose to do certain things, or like, civil protection or something like that? Like, or
So
do you
everyone
basically just get assigned?
You join as a response PC and you do 2 years frontline. So that's responding to 999 calls and dealing with crime, rape, theft, murder, all those things that you go to. And then once you've completed your 2 years and you're signed off as competent as a police officer, then you can apply to specialise, be that into CID, or helicopters,
traffic, helicopter, dogs,
search teams. There are so many jobs in the police, and that might be coast protection because you can apply to do that. And, obviously, most of the bodyguards of the royal family are coast protection police officers. So all those things you can apply for once you've done your 2 years. So it's a varied, many jobs you can do in the police.
And boating is more dangerous than police work.
Yeah, I mean, we could say, that you've got your mates on the end of a radio. Yes, you could be.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. I get loads of people messaging me, asking me about this type of stuff. Disgruntled Brits, usually asking like, what do we do now? I'm like, the same as everyone else, man. The same as everyone else. So you've got the 90-day thing, which is like your visa. Well, not necessarily a visa because it's not, but your permission to waiver, physically. Yeah, so you've got your permission to physically stay, as in the two of you in Europe, for 90 days, and then you have to leave for 90 days.
Yes.
And the boat has to check out every 180 days, is it? Because if you've got UK...
18 months.
18 months, right. Okay. So you've got UK VAT paid on your boat. You haven't got Europe VAT.
Yeah.
That's that one. I get the visa one because we're basically the same as an American or a Canadian, an Australian or an Indian or whatever now. That's fine. But like that VAT thing, like that was a rip off that. Like that was an absolute con job.
I don't think it doesn't present a real problem for us with UK VAT paid unless we chose to get residency in Europe. Then we'd have to pay EU VAT immediately because the boat only has to leave for a day. So you can, if you're in Spain, you can pop across to Bolivia and check out for a day, or go to Turkey for a day and reset your VAT clock. So it's not difficult in my mind for the boat. It's just that if we wanted to sell the Bear, we'd have to either pay 20% or reduce the price by the EU VAT, or we'd have to sell it back to the UK.
Yeah, because if we sell this boat even to a Brit down here, it will lose its UK VAT paid status as well as the EU VAT paid status. It can only keep its UK VAT paid status if we bring it back. And even that was only a recent change. There was this weird thing that if we went away for 3 years, we were supposed to pay VAT when we brought the boat back to the UK on our own boat. But they've recently rescinded that. But it's still only relevant if we bring it back. So if we sell it in the Med, somebody has to pay VAT. We're not selling down here, but if we, that's something that's always an issue if we wanted to change boats.
That's nuts. Like that's just very strange to me. I don't get where the company. You know what I mean? It's like if you have a watch and you bought the watch in England and then you sell the watch to somebody in like Spain, like do you have to pay VAT on it again because it's in a different country? Like I don't know. It's quite strange. But anyway, so you guys have to leave the EU every 90 days, and like, what spots have you figured out? Because you've cruised all the way through the Med now. Well, near enough. I mean, I haven't got my Middle East side of the Med, I suppose. But like, what spots did you pick up along the way to like hang out and spend those 90 days that are not in EU territory?
Do you want to tell the story?
Well,
it's not been a choice, really.
I mean, we've kind of fallen into the spots, but we're in Montenegro at the moment because we've done our 3 months in Greece. And if you have a marina contract in Montenegro, then you can extend your residency, or you can get temporary residency. The other place you can easily get temporary residency is Turkey. Croatia is a reasonable place as well, but they're probably going in Schengen next year. So there's not that many
Gibraltar.
places.
Yeah.
Gibraltar is, if you can find space, you can spend 3 months in Gibraltar, but we couldn't get space in Gibraltar the first winter, which messed us up, which is why we had to cross the whole Med earlier this season with no Schengen time left, so we couldn't go ashore.
Right.
And then, of course, there's Tunisia. We haven't investigated that yet. We haven't been to Tunisia. Lots of people go to Tunisia to get out. Cyprus is not Schengen, but it does have its own 90-day thing. So if we wintered in Cyprus, it's a separate 90 days to Europe, Schengen, but we could only actually still only stay there for 90 days. So
it's very difficult.
It is quite a challenge, actually.
Say even Montenegro, you can only stay for 90 days, but they do this temporary residency thing, because obviously 90 days is not enough to escape the winter in the Med. You need somewhere safe for longer than that. It's been a nightmare for us, really. So we did a whole series of videos called between the rock and the hard place, between leaving Gibraltar and Montenegro and not going ashore in all that time.
Kate didn't get off the boat for 28 days, and I only stepped ashore on a couple of fuel docks.
All because of Schengen, because we had no Schengen time, and that's difficult.
Yeah.
The
I
other
remember when you
weird
did
thing,
that trip and you were posting it in the groups, and I was like, to be honest, it's actually a trip that I wouldn't mind doing. I think that'll be great, just to like sail straight across the Med, because it's probably like one of the most challenging seas to cross, actually, in terms of like the different weather systems, and like, I've got trade winds. You've just got like different winds everywhere. So actually would have been pretty challenging. But then if I had to do it, I probably wouldn't enjoy it. I'd only enjoy it if it was by choice.
I think doing it and being able to go ashore and pop in a marina and that sort of thing is one thing, but not doing it at that time of year as well. It was a bit early in the season. So it was challenging. But I mean, talking about the Brexit type of stuff and the Schengen thing, we've also come across various anomalies where friends have checked into various places and the authorities have said, oh no, if you're on a boat, we don't stamp your passport, you're in transit, which has actually got no sort of legal basis. But some of the authorities are trying to keep the sailors there for longer to spend more money. And so some of our friends, I think, tried to check into Ibiza, and we're told, no, it's fine. As long as you stay within 10 kilometers of the boat and you stay on the boat each night, then we don't stamp you in, which,
that's great, but
it's great.
I don't know
it's great.
Which...
But it'd be useful if you could, because I mean, if you get the wrong,
if you could tell people
official. I mean, we checked into Corfu and people said that Corfu weren't stamping sailors in. We checked into Corfu and we had a right grumpy guy who was almost not going to let us in because we'd been in Portugal for 5 months. And I had to really explain to him, look, but that doesn't matter. We've been out for 3. And he really was like, and stomped off and left his junior to stamp our passports. He thought he'd caught us out and he hadn't. But it's different officials, different days, different places.
Yeah, you can't rely on it enough to make your plans. So.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's like I hate rules for the sake of rules' sake. Like if you're going to put a rule on my life and stop me from doing what I want to do, like it needs to be very useful, but it needs to help everybody else. Do you know what I mean? It needs to be a good purpose for a rule or a law, and like when they're not being followed properly, and then people are interpreting them all differently, and then sometimes it just doesn't matter. It's just like, just get rid of these things. Well, what are we even doing here? But it's very much dependent on who you get when you check in. Like I've had conversations with loads of people now, and they're just like, oh yeah, we went there and it wasn't an issue. They just told us we didn't even need to check in. I'm like, well, that is like explicitly against EU law. So what's going on there?
Yeah, absolutely.
And as Brits, and maybe as law enforcement, we're like, we want to know what the rules are. We're rule followers, and we'll follow the rules, even if it meant that we have to do that mammoth passage. It tells the rules and we'll stick to them. If the rules are like, well, so we went to a cocktail bar in Naxos, and it had a sign saying happy hour. Like, it was about 8, 9 o'clock in the evening. Said, maybe it's a bit late. Said to him, what time is happy hour? And he was like, what's his words?
Maybe now, maybe later, maybe all night.
Pretty much all night. Like, okay, that's fine.
I love how you're equating Schengen to happy hour.
Yeah, like, tell me what the rules are when I can get cheap cocktails, and I'll be happy. But if I don't know, then I'm not going to come here. So.
Yeah. What made you pick that boat? Because you picked probably something that isn't a Mediterranean cruising boat, but definitely more of like an offshore sailor in a way. So you picked a boat for crossing oceans, I'd say. So what brought you to that decision?
Yeah, we were looking at what you would call more Mediterranean boats. We were quite set on the Jeanneau 42 DS.
We cruised on here for holiday, didn't we?
No, that was a 42i, but the deck saloon one we really liked, because one of the things we did want was like a walk around or a bed that we could both get out the bottom of. We're not too keen on climbing over each other. It's only fun for a week. And I think we were close to buying a Jeanneau, and then we went on board a Malo 36, and it was just so solid, and the woodwork was so nice. We just fell in love with Swedish boats then. And so then we looked, but the Malo was just a little bit too small. And we looked around and we found the Najad, and we just about managed to squeeze it within our budget.
Just fell in love with it.
And we just fell in love with it. And I mean, we don't have the walk around bed. I have to kind of climb out the top of the bed swing my leg over Kate's head. So I don't quite climb over her. She doesn't want to look up at the wrong moment.
And, doesn't want to yawn at the wrong moment. Like, okay.
No, that's right. But you're right. She's not a Mediterranean cruiser. Because the glass windscreen is fantastic at night in a colder climate. Put a little bit of Rain-X on that glass windscreen and you can actually see through it, as opposed to most boat spray hoods with their crinkly plastic that you can't see through at all at night. So she's fantastic for that. For med cruising, the cockpit's a little bit small, and the glass can get a bit hot. But we have, we're not sure about oceans. In the beginning, we were going to definitely cross oceans, so we did want an ocean cruising boat. And now we don't know. We're really not sure about whether we're going to do an ocean or not, or spend more time in the med, or maybe go somewhere a little bit cooler. But that's how we ended up at the boat. But we do recognise that if you were to spend your whole time in the med, she probably isn't the best boat for that. Because, like I say, the cockpit's a lot smaller than some of your, Bavarias and Benettos and Jeanneaus with their open half cockpit and a wheel on either side. So whenever we sort of stop, we take the wheel off and just put it out of the way, because it sort of blocks up the cockpit a bit. But the solid feel of her and the steadiness in a heavy sea.
And year-round living, I think, because although it's a solid wood, and we don't have a house. This is everything we have. So in the winter, it's nice and cozy, and she feels she's always felt solid and homely, not dark or anything like that. So she's, in terms of for a home on the water, I think she win hands down on any sort of production plastic boat. Yeah,
like the quality, that like the extent to which those things are built they're just fantastic. They're so good. They're just so good at sailing. They're so strong. They're so well built inside. There's so much practicality to the way they've been designed. Like sailability, like they're just so good. But yeah, like you should cross oceans, because you bought a boat that's like specifically designed to do that.
And we might.
Or we might go up to. I mean, she's great in. I've sort of never been on a production boat like that in sort of big seas, but we've seen in other videos the sort of the creaking, and she's so quiet down below. She's so solid. You do feel safe in her. So even we may not have crossed oceans, but we've been in some big seas in the Med in March and things, and she's always felt safe. I would have no hesitation. She's definitely built for oceans.